Hey friends, welcome to Sabbath School Daily, where we have been studying from this lesson right here, Ephesians. This week we're studying from lesson number 9, which has the title, Living Wisely, and today is Tuesday's lesson, which has the title, Awake, O Sleeper. Today we continue studying Ephesians chapter 5. I'm going to read verses 11 through 13 first, then we'll study it, and then we'll look at verse 14 after. Look at what 11 through 13 says. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, for whatever makes manifest is light. How do we understand these verses? The first thing to understand is that the darkness that it is speaking about is the darkness that was mentioned in the previous verses, probably around 8 and 9. Verse 8 and 9, that speak about the debauchery, that speak about the deceitfulness, the coarse jesting, the empty and idle, worthless speaking. That's what the apostle is referencing to when he speaks about this contrast between light and darkness. And he's telling them not to participate. Again, verse 11, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, which are those that he previously mentioned. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. Then it says, but all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, for whatever makes manifest is light. So here there's also an additional command, an additional order, which is to expose these things. I think that here we sometimes misunderstand what we should be doing. Some people take this text to mean that you should be calling out people all over the place. Well, you are evil and you're going to hell and you are wrath-bound and you are a horrible person. And so they understand that this exposing of the evil deeds is by going out and picketing these signs and saying, you are going to hell, or God hates this and the Bible is against this. I don't believe you're going to get anyone that way. And I don't believe that you will help anyone change their life by acting that way. I believe you might be erring and sinning that way by the spirit of the law. So in this way that I'm mentioning this, what does it mean then to expose the works of the darkness? It means by exposing the works of the darkness by your works of the light. It's by contrast. When the children of God live the way that they should, when they have a relationship with God as they should, when they are good, when they are kind, when they produce the fruits of the Spirit, that exposes the works of the darkness in such a face-slapping way that those who find themselves contemplating both sides will see that there is no better way to live than by living in the light. So you're not going to reach anyone by getting in their face and getting angry with them and having big fights and arguments with them, whereas you might reach them if you are kind and good and righteous. While not participating in the same things that they do, you do demonstrate love towards them. That's the best way to expose the darkness, is to understand that people that are in the dark can become people who are in the light. They can go from being children of the darkness to being children of the light, and that we have the capability given by God to be instruments of light to these people. So be very careful in how you understand this exposing of the darkness, because sometimes you become an agent of the darkness by trying to expose the darkness. Be very careful in keeping the letter of the law, not to sin by not keeping the spirit of the law. Those who live in the darkness, they should be called to the light. They aren't of themselves unsavable. Actually, God wants to save them. So be careful with that. The lesson makes that clear. It says here in the first paragraph, to understand Ephesians 5:11 through 14, it is helpful to observe that Paul repeatedly offers two exhortations, alternating between them. The first, live a God-honoring lifestyle as children of the light, and don't live a sexually immoral, God-opposing lifestyle, exhibiting the unfruitful works of darkness. And then, to point out what I've already said before, the lesson says, believers are to expose the unfruitful works of darkness by exhibiting the righteous alternative for all to see. You want to expose the darkness? Live the alternative. Live the light. And in that way, you will be doing the works of the light. That's what verse 13 says. It says, but all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light. For whatever makes manifest is light. And so in that way, you are being light. You are reflecting the light that God has given you. And finally, verse 14 that says, therefore, he says, awake you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. We, many moments, are asleep. And God is calling us to wake up. His children that are children of the light need to wake up. They need to arise and go out and be light to people. Many times in our life, we are dead. We're spiritually dead. We're slumbering. We are the lukewarm church in that way. And so one of the best things that we can do is to arise, to wake up and go out to be light. Look at what the lesson has to say about this in the last paragraph. It says, "What are we to make of the poem or hymn in Ephesians 5:14, which uses language associated with the resurrection of the dead at the end of times, to issue a clarion call to awaken from spiritual slumber and experience the transforming presence of Christ?" Since Isaiah 60, verse 1 through 3, which Paul seems to reflect, is directed to God's people Israel, we may view the hymn poem of Ephesians 5:14 as a powerful appeal to Christian believers to awaken to their role as missionaries, refractors of light of Christ in a darkened world. So you'll see that there are both elements here, that this is a call for God's people, and this is a call for those who are living in the darkness, and God will give them light. I believe that both are applicable in this context. I hope that you study your lesson. There's a lot more here to talk about, to study, to learn. Discuss this with your family members. Share quarterly with a friend at work or at school. Discuss it with them, study it with them. That'll be a good missionary activity for you. Please remember to look up the Bible verses, write down your questions, your comments, your answers to the things that you're studying and learning here. Also, please remember to like, to share, to subscribe, and to comment to our videos. If you have a question, if you'd like to interact, I'd love to. That'd be great. And I hope to see you again here tomorrow for another Sabbath School Daily.